Do not sell your silver this week. If you take one single thing away from the next few minutes, let it be that. The silver price just crashed, your gut is screaming at you to get out, and I am telling you as plainly as I know how, the people dumping their silver right now are making a mistake they are going to regret for years. And by the end of this, I am going to give you the one honest question you have to answer before you sell a single ounce. Get that question wrong, and you will hand your metal to the very people who will happily sell it back to you later at 3 times the price. Picture the morning of the 29th of January, 2026. It had been the wildest ride any of us had ever seen. Silver had climbed to an intraday high of about $121 an ounce. Gold had touched an all-time record of $5,589, and the whole world of stackers was giddy. And then, in the space of 28 minutes, gold fell $380. 28 minutes. Silver came apart even worse, and inside about 30 hours it had shed more than 30% of its value. By the middle of summer, silver had been cut clean in half, down into the high 50s. I watched grown men who had stacked for 20 years panic sell everything they owned in the span of a single afternoon, white-knuckled, certain it was all over. Most of them sold within a few dollars of the bottom. And I want to make sure you are not the next one. So here is the mystery I am going to solve for you today, because the number on the screen hides the truth of what actually happened. Silver did not get less valuable this year, the dollar got stronger, and those are two completely different things. That is the whole video in one sentence, and once you truly understand it, this crash is going to look like something very different than what your gut is telling you it is. This was not a collapse in silver and gold, it was a spike in the dollar, and it is mostly mechanical. Stay with me, because I am going to prove it to you, and then I am going to give you exactly what to do about it before the weekend is out. For your whole life you have been trained to read the price of silver as a verdict on silver. Price goes down, silver must be worth less, something must be wrong with it. And I have to be honest with you, that instinct feels like common sense, which is exactly why it fools so many good people. But it has the machinery backwards. The price of silver is measured in dollars, and a measuring stick that changes length will make a thing look bigger or smaller, even when the thing itself never moved an inch. Our grandparents understood this in their bones, back when they could watch the same loaf of bread cost more dollars every year, while the bread stayed exactly the same size. The bread did not grow, the dollar shrank. We have been trained to forget that simple truth, and forgetting it is what talks people into selling real money at the worst possible moment. Getting that truth back is what this channel is about. My name is Hank, and for 35 years I have been stacking physical silver and gold, straight through every crash and every panic, including this one. I am not a dealer and I have nothing to sell you, no coins, no newsletter, no buy button. This is education and not financial advice, so please do your own homework before you do anything at all. Now, before we go any further, I have to be honest with you, only a very small number of the people who watch this channel are actually subscribed. If you love understanding how real money actually works and how to keep a level head when the price is scaring everyone around you, even half as much as I do, then do consider subscribing. It is completely free, and you can always change your mind later. It genuinely helps a working man keep making these. Right then, let us get into it, starting with what the strong dollar really did to your silver. Let me prove this to you, step by step. Start with the dollar itself. There is a measure called the dollar index that tracks the dollar against the other big currencies of the world, and it just pushed up above 100, a level it had not seen in about a year. When the dollar rips higher like that, every single thing priced in dollars gets marked down almost automatically, because it now takes fewer of those stronger dollars to buy the very same ounce of metal. That is not the world deciding silver is junk. That is the ruler getting longer, while the thing you are measuring stays exactly the same. Read that twice. It is the whole ballgame. Now, why is the dollar ripping? Because of what people expect the Federal Reserve to do next. The whisper in the market turned toward higher interest rates, with a good chunk of the committee leaning that direction, and traders started betting on more rate increases before the year is out. And here is why that matters for metal. Silver and gold pay you no interest. They just sit there being money. So the moment the market believes that cash and short-term government bonds are going to pay you more, the cost of holding a metal that pays nothing goes up in people's minds, and the fast, nervous money rotates out of metal and into things that pay a yield. That rotation, that great big shifting of hot money, is a lot of what you are watching on the chart. It is not a judgment on silver, it is a chase for yield. Now here is the piece most people miss entirely, and it is the answer to why silver got hit about twice as hard as gold. Silver, as I have said before, wears two hats at once. It is monetary metal, like gold, the money people run to when they are scared. But it is also an industrial metal, a working metal, in half the things you own. So when the market starts pricing in higher rates and a slower economy, that industrial half of silver gets marked down on fears of a slowdown. At the very same moment, the monetary half is already fighting the strong dollar. Silver takes the punch from both fists at once. That is why the gold to silver ratio blew out. That is why silver always falls faster and harder in a move like this. It is not a flaw in silver, it is the nature of silver, and if you understand it, you will stop panicking every time it happens. And then there is the plumbing underneath all of it, the ugliest and most important part. A great deal of this selling was not anybody sitting down and deciding silver is a bad idea. It was forced. When the price was running wild, the exchanges jacked up the amount of money a trader had to put down to hold a position, and the players who were gambling with borrowed money suddenly had to raise cash in a hurry. So they dumped their most easy-to-sell holdings, which are gold and silver, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Margin calls, leveraged funds unwinding, automatic sell orders tripping one after another like dominoes. That is mechanical selling. It is violent, it is fast, and here is the single most important thing about it: it burns out. Forced sellers always run out of the thing they are being forced to sell. But the buyers who want metal out of pure conviction, they never run out of conviction. That is how every one of these panics has ended, every single time. So look at what is actually on that list of reasons silver fell. A strong dollar, a Fed leaning toward higher rates, silver's industrial side getting double hit, and a wave of forced borrowed money selling piled on top. Now notice what is not on that list. Not one word about real people wanting less physical silver. Not one word about the debt going away, or the money printing stopping, or the central banks losing their appetite. The reasons for the fall are all macro and all mechanical. Not one of them is a reason anybody ever bought metal in the first place. Let me tell you what my side of the counter has actually been seeing, because it is the exact opposite of panic. When metal gets crushed on the screen like this, you would expect a flood of people dumping their physical coins. And yes, I am seeing some of that, the folks who bought the top and cannot stomach the ride any longer. But right alongside them, I am seeing serious buyers step in with both hands, because to them a strong dollar sell-off is a sale, not a verdict. The weak hands are handing their ounces to the strong hands. And friend, that is not what a collapse looks like. That is what a bottom looks like. It is ugly, and it is supposed to be ugly. That is how bottoms are built. And here is the proof of who is really doing the buying, while everyone else panics, and it is a record for the history books. The central banks of the world, the biggest and coldest money there is, bought a record 289 tons of gold in a single quarter this year, and they did it in the very stretch when the price was falling the hardest. They did not sell the crash. They bought the crash in record size. More than 2 out of every 3 central banks say they plan to keep adding. That is your tell. When the strongest hands on earth are buying, with both fists in the middle of the fall, you have to ask yourself very carefully whether you really want to be selling into their open arms. Now watch the premiums, because they tell you a truth the screen price cannot. In a real physical panic, 2 strange things can happen at the same time. The paper spot price falls, and yet the markup on an actual coin you can hold in your hand holds firm, or even rises, because everybody suddenly wants the same real thing at the cheaper number. If you only stare at the spot price, you think the world is ending, but if you watch the all-in price of a real coin, the number you would actually pay to walk out the door with metal, you see that demand is alive and well, so do not get anchored to that spot number on your screen. Ask what a real ounce actually costs, delivered into your hand. That gap tells the real story. I have lived through more than one of these panics where the paper price was falling out of bed, and yet you could barely find a real coin to buy at any sensible markup, because everyone who understood the game was steadily hoovering up every ounce the dealers could get. When the paper says crash and the physical says shortage, believe the physical every time. The paper is a promise. The coin in your hand is the truth. Now let me be straight with you because I am not a cheerleader and I will not insult you. If you put real money in near $120 in January, you are down more than half, and that is a genuine gut punch. I am not going to dress it up or pretend it does not sting. This is a serious sell-off, and it can absolutely get worse before it gets better. If the Fed actually delivers those rate hikes and the dollar keeps climbing, metal can stay heavy or grind lower for a good while yet. I am not going to promise you a bottom on any particular day, because nobody honest can, but here is the thing I need you to hold on to. The reasons we are falling are macro and mechanical. They are not the reasons you own metal in the first place. The debt has not gone anywhere. The slow bleed in the value of your currency has not gone anywhere. The central banks are still net buyers. The whole reason you bought silver is still standing, completely untouched by any of this. My own long-term destination has not moved an inch through all of this. I still believe we are headed back toward $5,500 gold and $120 silver and beyond, not because of any chart, but because of the simple math of a debt that keeps growing and a currency that keeps getting watered down. A strong dollar squeezing everything today does not erase that. If anything, a high-rate, strong dollar squeeze is exactly the kind of pressure that eventually breaks and sends the next leg roaring higher. The timing belongs to the Fed. The direction, over the long haul, belongs to the arithmetic. I will tell you a short story on myself because I learned this one the expensive way. Years back, in an earlier crash, I got scared out of a good silver position near the lows. I sold. I felt that sweet flush of relief for about a week, and then I watched that very same metal climb for the next 2 years while I sat there in cash kicking myself. The relief lasted a week, the regret lasted years. I promised myself I would never again sell real money into a panic just to make the bad feeling stop, and I never have. The bad feeling is the price of admission. It is not a reason to sell, it is the toll you pay on the road to the other side, and that is not on you if you bought the top. If you got swept up in that January frenzy, that is not a moral failing, and it does not make you a fool. You were standing exactly where the whole machine was built to put you, at the peak on the loudest day, feeling the most certain. You were sold to. That is a different thing from being stupid, and I need you to feel that difference in your chest before you make a decision you cannot take back. So here is exactly what I would do this week. 4 simple moves, and you can finish every one of them before Sunday. Move 1. Do not sell into this panic unless you genuinely need the cash inside the next 2 years. Pull up what you actually paid and your real-time horizon this weekend. If you bought to protect your family's buying power for 5 years or 10, then a low driven by the dollar and the Fed is just noise on your timeline. Move 2. If you truly must raise cash, sell in the right order. Let go of the generic rounds and bars first because they sit closest to the spot price and are the cheapest to replace later. Protect your sovereign coins, your eagles and maples, and anything held inside a retirement account because those carry the markup and the tax shelter you do not want to hand back. Move 3. If you are a long-term buyer, understand that this is a sale, but watch that all-in price, not just spot. Ladder your buying, a little at a time, and keep some dry powder in reserve. Do not throw it all in on one click trying to nail the exact bottom, because forced selling can overshoot and go lower than makes any sense. Think of it as dollar cost averaging down, and that can be one of the most valuable things you ever do when the market finally turns. Move 4. Stress test how you actually hold your metal. If you have got the kind that lives as a paper claim in some big institution, an account that says they are holding it for you, a margin-driven storm like this is exactly the week to ask the hard question. Can you convert it to metal that is truly set aside in your name, or take delivery of it outright? When the whole move is being driven by paper and leverage, the gap between a paper claim and a real ounce in your own hand is the thing that matters most in all the world. So let me pull all the way back and give you the whole sweep of it. The metal did not change this week, the dollar did. The reasons silver fell are a strong dollar, a hawkish Fed, silver's double nature getting hit from both sides, and a wave of forced selling that will burn itself out like every one before it. Underneath all of that, the real reasons you own metal are exactly where you left them, and the strongest money on the planet is buying the very dip you are being tempted to sell. Whatever you do, do not let a strong dollar and a scary headline talk you out of the one asset on this earth that they cannot print more of. So here is the one honest question I promised you, the one you have to answer before you touch that sell button. It is not complicated, it is just this. Do I actually need this money in the next 24 months? That is it. That is the whole question. If the answer is yes, if you have a real bill coming due, then sell what you must, in the right order, with no shame in it. But if the answer is no, then hear me clearly. You are not escaping a collapse. You are selling your insurance in the middle of the storm at a discount to the very people who will be delighted to sell it back to you later at a much higher price. Do not be that person. Close the app, walk away from the screen, and let the panic pass over you like weather. Because in the end, this was never really about the price at all. It is about what kind of person you decide to be when the red hits. The difference between a stacker and a seller was never how they feel when the screen is green and everybody is happy. Anybody can hold when it is easy. The difference is what they do when the red comes, when it hurts, when every instinct says run. That is the moment you find out whether you own money or whether the money owns you. A person who holds real metal through a storm like this cannot be switched off, cannot be talked out of his savings by a longer ruler and a frightening headline. Be that person. Be your own bank, your own safe harbor, and let the weak hands sell you their fear at half price. Let me ask you two things down in the comments, and I read as many as I possibly can. First, tell me honestly, when silver got cut in half this year, did you sell any, buy more, or just white-knuckle it and do nothing? And second, tell me the one price where you have promised yourself you would back up the truck and buy with both hands. I want to see the pattern, because it never stops teaching me something about who panics and who prospers. Thank you for spending this time with me. It truly means the world that a working man's plain talk about real money is worth an hour of your day. Stack smart, look after your own, and I will see you next time. And when that next time comes, subscribe, because I am going to answer the question everybody is asking me now. What is it actually going to take to send silver exploding higher again, up out of this channel and back toward its old highs and beyond? It is not the war, and it is not the price predictions the banks keep throwing around. The real trigger is something quieter and far more powerful, and it is already building underneath our feet.